All right, welcome back to the program. In case you're just joining us, you've missed like the first half of the show, but not to worry. The second half would also be useful to you. My guest is joining me right now virtually. She is Oluwatosin Olaseinde, who is the founder of Money Africa. Hello, Tosi, and welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Long time no see.
Yes, yes, yes. Happy second half of the year.
Tosi, I said it's such a long time. Why did you abandon me like this? But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that after the show. Now let's get started with the interview. May 29, President Tinubu says subsidy is gone. What does it mean for our personal finances? Because when that announcement was made that day, first things first, many cars went to the petrol stations to fill up their tank. And I think a day later, or whether 24 or 48 hours later, NNPC came up with a price template, and you saw that the petrol stations were empty. What does it mean? Subsidy is gone by Tinubu. What does it mean for our personal finances?
It means a whole lot. What this is actually saying is that we are going to start seeing, or we've already started to see a surge in almost all the costs. Now, the thing about the petrol is that it translates to almost every other thing that we're looking at. So look at the food, right? We're transporting food from another part of Nigeria to different parts of it. With a surge in the cost of transportation, you're also going to see the food prices go up. And guess what? The average Nigerian spends about 50% of their income on food. So if food gets more expensive, what that means is that it reduces the money for you to spend on other things like health, things like education, things like insurance, amongst others, because for the average Nigerian, about 50% of their income is going towards food. If you spend less than 50% of your income on food, you are privileged, and you must not forget that. So
Mm.
you're able to then see all the different areas that is going to. Now, if you even look at, for a lot of people, for small businesses, they're not able to continue to keep the number of people that they have in their employment. So what you're then seeing is that we might start seeing some family lose breadwinners, right? So when some families lose their breadwinners, what happens is the only person that is bringing in income gets crowded. There's more stress on that limited income. So it is like a ripple effect. It affects almost everything right now. So this is a time for everybody to be really, really cautious. You're very cautious. You're paying so much attention because there is more pressure on that limited resources of yours.
Now, Tosi, what is different about this have to? That's the second, this H2 rather, for personal finances. And does this really rubbish, does this make rubbish of New Year personal financial goals and personal financial planning? Because perhaps many people did not would not have factored this in at the beginning of the year. Some people would have said, okay, I'll try and build a house this year. My children will get out of school this year. I would increase my savings, so I would increase my investment. And in the middle of the year, we were all, not perhaps too surprised or shocked, because for some people too, you will know that this is a transition year. So you should also put that in your planning. But so how does it make the second half different? And does this really, has this really made rubbish our plans from the beginning of the year?
So the truth is this, right? When a lot of people were planning, they were planning based on the information that was available to them, right? So this is like the cost of petrol, this is the cost of food, these are my expectations, this is what I'm expecting with my job. Not everyone sort of saw it coming. Now, three things are happening at once, right? Number one, you're having the first subsidy that has been removed, and you're seeing a surge in cost of a lot of things. Number two, you're looking at the unification of the naira, right? So you're looking at the exchange rate literally doing that dance, trying to find its own reading. You're seeing foreign direct investment that creates more job. You're seeing it contract, right? Which means that many more people that could have been getting jobs will not get jobs, and some people might lose their job. Number three, you're anticipating an increase in the cost of electricity, right? So there are so many things happening at once, and definitely it's going to affect the plans that you had at the beginning of the year. Definitely, definitely. Only if you're a witch and you sort of, or you are like an analyst, like for example, some analysts They sort of projected it that they're expecting this might happen. You always have a best case scenario and a worst case scenario. But for the average regular person, they usually do not have all those analysis taking into consideration what could happen, right? So if that is the case, definitely you have to go back to the drawing board. My number one piece of advice for everyone is that number one, remember, there are two things I love to talk about whenever we're thinking about personal finance: the things that are within your control and the things that are outside your control. You're not the CBN governor. You cannot go and change exchange rates. You cannot open the borders for them to start bringing in cheaper food. You don't have that power. You don't control the electricity rates, the subsidy, and things like that. So, for the things that are completely out of your control, I want you to be able to sort of, make peace with it or look for how to push for better accountability by governance, right? We are asking for better accountability. But for that, that is within your power. That is what I also want you to channel a lot of energy into, right? So, what is my income coming in? How can I protect that income to ensure that it does not dwindle, right? The little resources within my hands, how can I manage that expense, manage that budget? So we are looking at it at things that I can control and things that I cannot control. It's a very tough time to be in right now, really. And that's why we're actually asking for the governors, for governors, that if the citizens are taking up all this, burden and all this increased cost, we're asking for them to be also accountable to ensure that this sacrifice is not in vain.
Now, just like you mentioned earlier, and I did mention even at the beginning of the program, that there are many people that have lost their jobs right now as a result of the policies announcement from Mr. President. And unfortunately, we've not seen, their support or even in terms of assistance to the poor and vulnerable and even small businesses amongst us. The question to you right now is that for people that are watching right now that have lost their jobs or that have also suffered salary loss or salary depreciation, how should they navigate it? Because just like you said, there are two things. There are things out of your control and there are things within your control. So what can they do for people that have suffered salary depreciation as a result of perhaps higher transportation costs, higher food prices, and all of that, and they still need to just go out to do something instead of staying at home?
That's a very good question. What I would say to you is this: number one, your mindset is very key, right? We're currently in a really tough transitioning stage, and how do you want to approach it? Are you going to approach it with the mindset of, oh my gosh, I'm losing this battle, or am I going to approach it with a mindset of, oh, I'm going to find a way out? That's number one. Number two, we want to look for how to bite a little bit of that pie. Let me give you an example, right? You've already seen like the big players or like Coca-Cola and all those big people in a certain space already. I just want just a little pie. If it is Zobo I can make, how can I push my Zobo so that more people are actually having access to it? I want just a little pie from all those bigger guys. That's what we're trying to look for. So how can you get a little pie? Now, there are so many CEOs that are going through transition, that are struggling, that are looking for how to keep their businesses. Do you have a good mind that can help them structure growth? Go to LinkedIn, write them a pitch. This is the business that you're currently doing. This is what I can bring, list them out. So while people are losing their jobs, if employers find a person that can help them and steer them on the path to growth, trust me, you're going to get that job. So you're looking for things that you can help those small businesses stabilize, that you can help them chart a path during these difficult times. Also, we're looking for what are the skills that are currently in demand. If you look at, for instance, for a lot of small businesses, a lot of them are transitioning into media. They are doing short videos, they are doing clips, they are doing things like that. Is that skill in demand? You want to go and sit down and learn it and be able to look for the skills that are currently in demand. So don't forget about what did I study in school. You're asking yourself, what can I do to put food on the table? Let me give you a quick example. There's a particular lady that all she does is that she goes to weddings, she takes videos, and she creates a 1 minute video out of all everything that has happened in that wedding, and she charges 150,000 naira for that thing, right? So you have everybody's thinking outside of the box. Also, don't limit yourself to Nigeria. We are now all global citizens. You can be sitting down in Lagos or in Abeokuta or in Port Harcourt, and you are looking for clients that are outside of Nigeria. Thank God for the internet and for emails. You can execute your job from anywhere. So we are in a difficult time. It is stressful. I'm not downplaying that. I understand that you have to put food on your table for your family, but you're also thinking, how do we weather this storm? Think still till things stabilize, because we're also all watching. What's going to happen next? Is the foreign direct investment going to come in? How is the policy going to go? Are they going to open the borders? We are all currently watching. So while we are in that watching stage, you also have to stay alive. So you're thinking about how else can I put food on the table? This is the time to be creative. Whatsoever good thing your hand finds to do, go ahead and do it. So put your head down, start searching what is in demand. How can I pitch? Go on LinkedIn. You're striking, you're doing everything within your power to ensure that you are putting food on your table and that there's an income coming in.
How about people that earn less than $1.90 a day? Um, what should they do to be able to survive? Because perhaps those that are earning $1.90 a day are not the kind of people you find also on LinkedIn. They are not the kind of people that may have access to the weddings that will be creating a 1 minute video for 100,000 naira. They are the same category of people that the World Bank has said have been pushed into poverty in the first half of this year. For like a barrow boy in Wuse market, or perhaps over there in Balogu market, or in my 12, that is carrying something on the head, and at the end, the person gives him or her 100 naira or 200 naira. How can that person navigate this period, Tosi? Because those people are many. They are more in this
I
economy.
agree.
Yes.
I agree. And I'm going to be very honest. When it comes to personal finance, right, you have to also acknowledge the fact that some people are not stupid. They are not foolish. It's not that they don't know how to do it. They simply do not have the access, right? And there's some category of people that this particular, education will not work for, right? So that person with wheelbarrow, what actually really needs to be done is an incentive. Like you're seeing the role that the government is going to play here to also support them, right? So it's not like I'm going to say, oh, go and buy 10 wheelbarrows and go and hustle more and things like that. So personal finance basically means when income is coming in, you want to make the most of it. But if there's no income coming in at all, those people do not have the skills to be able to, upskill and go for higher paying jobs or look outside of Nigeria. Then we're also looking at the government to say, how do you support those people during this phase? So there are a particular group of people that, this particular, scenario or this kind of education is not primarily meant for that. What they really truly need is they actually really do need support or they need some kind of income. So I really, and this is really just the truth. So this is where everybody has to go to the seat, especially those in government, and ask themselves, those that have been pushed below poverty line, how do we support them? How do we assist them during this transitioning period?
So how do you think that the government can really support the vulnerable at this time? There are a lot of thoughts out there. I spoke with the special advisor to the president of monetary policy, Mr. Wale Edun, last week. I don't know if we have the video. If we have the video, we can show it so that we can take Tosin's answer perhaps when we see it. I asked him this same question in terms of you all are asking us to sacrifice. Nigerians are sacrificing. We were told fuel subsidies for the rich. But the transmission effect is to everybody, and it's even only the rich now that can afford to buy fuel without betting an eyelid. So what is your own um, what would you recommend? What's your recommendation as to how the government should assist the the um,
Minor
the vulnerable?
My recommendation for assisting the vulnerable will be number one, what's taking their money? Food.
Food,
Food.
yeah.
The average Nigerian, especially those in that category, 50% of their money is going towards food. What are we doing to drive down the price of food? That's the first question, right? So you're looking at things like, oh, we closed the border, or the taxes on imported rice, or things like that. You're looking for low hanging fruits. So while the times are really difficult, at the very minimum, people want to be able to eat. They want to be able to eat, at least put food in their mouths and go to bed at night. So you're thinking, what can we do about the prices of food? If I were in government, that's going to be the first thing I'm going to look at. Food. How do we drive down that price? So at least people can eat. Once they've eaten, we can start thinking about other things. So that's one of the ways that I'll go about it. Another way that people also look at is, are they documented? How do we then do cash transfers and things like that? But even if they give somebody 1,000 naira or 5,000 naira, how sustainable is it? So I'd rather you create a thriving environment that people can actually survive, people can actually thrive, people can actually make more money. And also the cost of that food, the cost has to come down so that people can actually eat, they can engage in businesses, create an enabling environment so people can actually find jobs, something sustainable. If you give them 10,000 naira once off, after 2 months, 1 month, or even 2 weeks, that money is going to finish. So how do we create a continuous flow of income that is actually sustainable? So we really just really want an economy that actually works so that people will be able to, survive, and more people will come above that poverty line.
Okay, Tosi, we have the track up right now with Wale Edu. Let's quickly take a listen to what he said as to what the government is thinking as to supporting the vulnerable in the midst of all of this. Let's take that one.
Well, the Bank of America, it's the head of the international division, Mr. Benny Mensah, met with Mr. President and, of course, members of his team, Governor of Central Bank, myself as his advisor on monetary policy. And you've got to remember, Bank of America is the second biggest bank in the world. It's the largest bank in America. It has within the entity the former Merrill Lynch, which is one of the top investment banks. So it's a wholesale institution that has funding, that has technique, that has all the elements that you need really to do financial engineering and, of course, to fund. So.
All right, we're supposed to bring you the answer to that question as to what the government will do for the vulnerable. Wale Edu responded at the World Bank's report, Nigeria Development Update. Okay, Tosi, let me bring you back here. What you just saw was the feedback from the special advisor to the president, Wale Edu, on Bank of America's visit. Like I mentioned earlier, we've seen investors coming in into the country at least telling us that there is that readiness from them right now to do business with us. So the onus is on us right now to let them know that we are ready for business and it's not just by mouth. But let's go back to our conversation earlier. How can you commit your capital right now? Do you think that with what is happening in the country that people will still have money for investment? I didn't say savings because some people have actually put their hands into their savings right now to um, to survive. Of course, in personal finance, you should have up to perhaps 3 to 6 months emergency fund. Some emergency funds have evaporated. So do you think that people will still have money for capital for investment at this time?
Again, we have three different categories of people. We have the people that are, below poverty line that we spoke about previously, that are vulnerable and they need help. We have people as well that are literally living from hand to mouth, not because they are careless or not because they don't know how to budget. They literally just earn enough to keep themselves alive. Then you also have that other small little category of people that once they've met all their needs, they have some overflow. So it depends on what category that these people fall under. We still have that category of people that still have a little bit of an overflow after they've met all their expenses. Then you're asking yourselves, how should I invest if I fall under this category? What we always advocate for is a long-term strategy if you fall under this category. You're not thinking about 3 months, you're not thinking about 6 months, you're thinking about a decade. What am I going to invest in? How will I smoothen my investment in the long run so that my money actually works for me? I'm not always going there to, to upset it or to, try and see what's going on. I like to liken it to somebody building a house. You build a strong foundation, then you start, putting the blocks. Before you know what happens, you're doing a decking, you're putting windows. So you're thinking about a decade. But remember, it is a privilege to be able to have an income. I mean, I'm talking about in Nigeria, that once you've met all your needs, you have some overflow and then you want to build in the long run. So these are the things that we should be looking at. But I also want to say to everyone is that I know I say this a lot, is that number one, we have to stay positive, right? We're in this and we're in this together. Number two, we want to hold the government accountable. We're asking for accountability. How are we going to utilize this new subsidy that is now not being, used for fuel anymore? We want to see growth in the long term. And number three, we also want to upskill, right? We're looking for the skills that are actually in demand. We're looking for work. We're looking outside of not just Nigeria. We want to start seeing it as a global village. So if you fall in that category with some kind of overflow, you start thinking about how do I invest in the long run? What am I doing that in the next 10 years, my future self is going to say thank you to me today. It could be skills, it could be learning to be learning some skills, trying to be the best in the game. So let me give you, for instance, if I'm thinking about money shows on TV, I'm thinking about Nancy Line, you're coming to my mind because you set yourself apart. You want to be the best in that space. So people should also remember that investing in themselves and upskilling is also an investment. And we are thinking about the next 10 years. We are thinking about a decade. Yeah.
Thank you, Tosi, for that, acknowledgement to me this morning. That when you're thinking of of a business show, I come to your mind. Thank you for that. So, but if we take a look at government reforms of that we're expecting, what kind of reforms would you say that government should put in place that may assist Nigerians in their personal finances? I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to talk about. I'm not saying like government policies now, PMS, subsidy removal and all of that. Are there some policies that could have a human and a humane form that government need to like really think about it and say, okay, we are putting this reform together, or we want to put out this reform, but how will it benefit our people? How does it raise purchasing power? I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
I
Yes.
understand. And I think if I'm thinking along those lines, the first thing I would think about is what sector has the largest number of people under them? And it's definitely SMEs, right? So what I would think about in terms of reforms is how can I keep these SMEs in business?
Yeah.
How can I ensure that they can continue to be paying salaries to their team members? How can I ensure that SMEs are actually taking care of insurance plans for their team members? Because if you're looking at those humans, right, what are the things that take money from them? Number one, it's either they lose their job, or if they don't lose their job, God forbid they fall sick, they have to spend so much money in hospital. How do we ensure that, number one, they continue to have a job, or they get paid more at the job that they are currently at? Number two, if they were to fall sick, they don't have to go on social media or beg all family members, knowing that there's an insurance plan for them that they are taken care of. Those are some of the things that you're looking at. Another thing that you're also thinking about is housing. Have you seen the prices of rent now? It's crazy. The price of rent, I'm like, wow, when did it go up, over the past couple of years? We've just seen like a really significant surge. How can people be able to afford that housing? How can we do it in such a way that we decongest, for instance, a city like Lagos, that we create hubs in different parts where there's actually a cheaper cost of living, that we get people to move to all the different parts so they can have a better quality of life? So if I'm thinking about policies, I'll be thinking along those lines, the angle or the sector that affects the most people. And these are really everyday people that are working with, SMEs or micro or smaller institutions. Yeah.
Okay, Tosi, finally, is the future clear? Are we seeing clarity of this future? Because there seems to be like optimism in the atmosphere. This is Baba go fast now, according to Reuters, as against Baba go slow. So there seems to be that kind of optimism, but like I mentioned yesterday, it's too early first perhaps to begin that triumphant dance. But if we're taking a look at our crystal ball, is the future clear and assured?
All right, I'm going to first of all say I'm biased. I'm an optimist. Optimism is an asset, but I know we've been here before in the sense that people were excited, they were excited, they were celebrating, they did not get what they want. But I want to say, let's be optimistic again, based on economics, right? It looks like they are doing the right things now. If they are doing the right things, we just really want to see that work, and the sacrifice has to be done on both parts, right? So if we're seeing all this regular day-to-day Nigerians taking up this extra cost, taking up all these extra things, we want to see the government also sacrifice, right? And we just have to stay hopeful, hold them accountable. Everybody holds accountability. We want to get reports. We want to see how the money is spent. We want to be kept up to date. But I'm optimistic, right? I'm optimistic, and I'm telling you that I'm biased here. I'm an optimist, and I'm really hoping that the next 10 years, I'm hoping, Nancy, that our children are not going to be complaining about the same things we complained about,
telling you,
right?
That is what frightens me.
Yes,
it frightens me a lot.
I'm optimistic.
Okay. On that optimistic note, let's leave it. Thank you very much, Tosin, for joining.
Thank you so much.
All right. I've been speaking with Tosin Olaseinde, who is the founder of Money African. We've been looking at navigating your personal finances in today's economy. I hope that you've gotten one or two things from this interview. Please join us again tomorrow on this same station, 11 to 12 noon. I am Nancy Najibi, the best you can be, and build a change that you want to see by now.